No, I did not finish my August TBR. Hello, beautiful people. I'm back here again, Tomisin on Faithfully Booked, and thank you for tuning in to another video on Faithfully Booked YouTube channel. Really grateful to have you here. Where would I be without you? Where would I be if you were not liking the videos, sharing the videos, subscribing, commenting, and all of that? So thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in every week. Thank you, thank you. So in this video, I just want to get into my August TBR. So you remember that I made a video talking about my August TBR, right? All the books that I wanted to read in the month of August. So in this book, I'll just be diving into and getting into if I really completed my August TBR. So did I complete my August TBR? Well, let's find out. So I had 8 books on my August TBR. Oopsie. And these are some of them. So yeah, I had 4 fiction and 4 non-fiction. And out of the 4 fiction books that I wanted to read in the month of August, 2 of them were series. So there was the Hunger Games series, there was A Man Called Ove, there was Percy Jackson, and then there was Redeeming Love. And for non-fiction, there was 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, there was 5 Levels of Leadership, there was also the friendship factor, and still like an artist. So did I finish all the books? Did I complete all the books on my August TBR? Well, short answer is no. There were 8 books and I read more than 8 books in the month of August. So find out which ones you should be adding to your TBR this month. Find out which ones you should be reading, which ones you should be staying away from, and also find out which ones that were not on my TBR, but I ended up reading. You've made it this far. You're here. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you drop a comment. You can drop a book emoji if you don't know what to drop. And make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you're subscribed. Total, I read 10 books. Right. So the first book that I read the Hunger Games series. The Hunger Games series. The Hunger Games has been around for a long time, but I have never read it before. Right. So the Hunger Games, there are 5 books in this series. There's the Hunger Games, there's Catching Fire, there's also Mockingjay, and then the 4th book is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and the 5th just came out this year, and that's Haymitch's story, Sunrise on the Reaping. Right, I'm looking forward to reading those 2 books. I have not read them, but I read the first 3. Right, so this series, it follows the story of Katniss, everything. She's a citizen of Panem, and Panem is basically the world after the destruction of North America. So what happens is that there's the Hunger Games, right? There are 13 districts, right? Katniss is from the 12th district, which is the coal district. And apparently during the war between the capital and the 13 districts, District 13, right, was destroyed. So there are 12 districts. And what happens is that every year there's the Hunger Games. And what happens is that each district is supposed to present 2 tributes, a male and a female, right? And these two tributes, pardon me, from each district will go into the Hunger Games, right? And it's basically just a method developed by the capital to make sure that the districts don't like rebel again, they don't like have another revolution, and just basically remind them of the consequences of fighting against the capital. So their country is called Panem, and then Panem is made up of the capital and the 13 districts, right? But I already said that the 13th district was apparently destroyed during the war between the district and the capital, right? So this year in the 74th Hunger Games, Katniss's younger and only sister Prim, she's chosen to be a district, but of course, Katniss steps up, steps out, right? Whatever the word is, and she like basically replaces her sister as a district because she's not just going to stand there and watch her younger sister get thrown into such a bloody game, right? Because the Hunger Games is a terrible game. It's a really, really terrible game, really bloody, really dangerous, right? So we have a total of 24 tributes in the games, and there has to be one winner. If the other competitors don't kill you, right, the conditions of the game just might, because like there's harsh climate, there are wild animals, everything is basically designed against you, right? There's just supposed to be one winner, right? That's the Hunger Games. Katniss enters into the Hunger Games, and the other person from District 12 is none other than Peter. Peter is a baker's son, right? And they have Katniss and Peter have like a little history, right? Let me not get into it. Let me not give away anything, right? But basically, when she was a bit younger, Peter sort of helped her. That's just what's going on. So Katniss and Peter, they get introduced to the team that would help them get ready for the games. They also get introduced to their mentor, Haymitch, right? He's the only surviving winner, right, from District 12. So basically, it's supposed to coach them. It's supposed to just give them tips on coming out alive, right, getting out of the games, getting out of the Hunger Games alive and everything. The only thing is that, it's drunk and all of that. So is it really going to be any help? Anyway, so they eventually get into the games, and spoiler. So you can just like fast forward if you don't want to hear the spoiler. They get into the games, confront all the, rigors of the games, all the technicalities and the evils of the game and all of that. And both of them, both Katniss and Peter, come out alive, right? Both of them come out alive surprisingly. They win the Hunger Games and they come out alive. And if you think that's the end, nah, that's not the end. In the second book, Catching Fire, we see that they are thrust into the Hunger Games again. So in the 75th, the 75th year of the Hunger Games, that's the quarter quell. That's what they call it. So every quarter, so I think 25, 50, 75, like all of that, right? There's a twist to the games, and the twist to the 75th Hunger Games is that, the people that will go into the games have to have to be winners, right? So the pool of tributes is winners. I really hope I explained that well, but basically, it's only people that have won the Hunger Games before that are going into the 75th edition of the Hunger Games. So that happens, and then eventually there's a rebellion against the capital, and that's it basically. So if you're a lover of action, you're a lover of action, this book is for you. This book was really, really good. The plot was amazing. There were twists and turns along the way that you'd probably not anticipate, you would not expect. There's also like friendship along the way, love along the way. So it's a really, really, really good book. I really loved the writing. I loved, everything was just done so well. The execution of the book, the execution of the Hunger Games was stellar. It was beautiful. Hunger Games, very, very, very amazing book. So the entire series, right, the three books that I've read, the rating that I would give it overall is between 4.5 and 5.0 because it really is that good, and you really should read the Hunger Games, right? You should read Hunger Games. You should read. I also read A Man Called Ove, and if you've been following this channel since like last year, at the beginning of the year, you know that A Man Called Ove has been on my TBR for the longest time. So I've been reading this book since last year. A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. It was a really, really good story, and I'm really glad to see that I finally finished A Man Called Ove, right? So it follows the story of a man called Ove, right? It's a really heartwarming story. It follows Ove who has lost his wife. So we see this book navigating things like grief, loss, all of that. So Ove basically is an elderly man. He likes things to be done in a certain way. Pardon me, I don't think I've been looking at the camera. So he likes things to be done in a certain way, and when things are not done in a particular order, in a particular way, that really gets to him, that really bothers him and irks him, right? So that's it. And basically, he has lost his wife, so he's just contemplating, like, what is the point of actually continuing to live? What's the point of all of that? And then a new family moves into the neighborhood, and it consists of Pavana. She's pregnant, and she has, I think, two children, but I'm not very sure, and a husband, right? So we have that found family trope going on, and we just see Pavana and her family just like warming their way into Ove's life and all of that. So this book was really, really, really good. I really liked how it was written. I really liked the things and the themes that it explored grief, explored, loss and all of that in such a beautiful way. Fredrik Backman's writing is really, really, really good. And I'm looking forward to reading more books by Fredrik Backman, like Bear Town. I want to read Bear Town. I really want to read Bear Town. Anyways, like I was saying, and there's also the mention of child loss in this book. So definitely look out for that. Watch out for that. And there's also like a same-sex couple or a relationship in this book, right? But this book was really good. I really enjoyed reading it. This book would be about a 4.5-star read for me because I took so long to read it, so that I was not able to like just revel in the entire experience if I would have done it in like a single sitting. But it was really, 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 really good. So A Man Called Ove is definitely a book you should read if you'd like to read a book about, explores the things that human beings go through, that explores like sort of complex characters, that explores things like grief, found family, things like that, right? So A Man Called Ove was a really, really, really good book. So I also read Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. I read Redeeming Love. So this was my second time reading Redeeming Love, and Redeeming Love really has a beautiful plot, and I really like the story and like what it was going at, what it was aiming for, right? So redeeming love, a story about the redeeming love of God, and how, like, God can really transform anybody's life, right? So he was able to transform Angel in the story's life. He was able to transform, and he has been able to transform so many lives along the years. You see it in the Bible, you see it in like modern day. Like, God is a transformer, and this book just highlights that, and just, reveals to us his redeeming love in a beautiful way through the lens of fiction. So it follows the story of Angel. She's a girl, she's a lady who was sold into prostitution when she was 8 years old, right? Very, very terrible, right? So it follows her story and how she met Duke, and Duke is basically a pedophile. Duke is basically someone that is interested in children, which is terrible, which is wrong on every level, and wrong in every situation, and wrong in every world, right? There are some things that are just wrong, and like, please, pedophilia it's a no-no. Anyway, so Angel, she began, working at a brothel. She has not been able to leave that life behind. That's the entire life. That's everything that she has ever known. Actually, that's all she has ever known, right? This life of being like a prostitute, working in brothels, that sort of thing. That I don't want to give away spoilers, right? I don't want to delve too much in. But eventually, she meets a God-fearing farmer, and his name is Michael. And Michael takes an interest in her. He's like, "Oh, who's that girl?" Right? So eventually goes to paradise. He meets her. He's interested in her. He wants her to be his wife and all of that. And he's telling her all of this, but she's not buying it because she has heard the same thing from different people, right? But eventually, they do end up together. They eventually do end up, getting married after a life threatening situation that Angel finds herself in, a near death experience, actually, right? So eventually they do end up in marriage, and when they end up in marriage, Angel is unwilling, while Michael on the other hand is excited. Not like excited, but it's just like really hard for both of them, because Angel is not interested in the marriage at all. All that she wants is that she wants to collect her money from the from the owner of the brothel where she used to work, and she wants to build a cabin for herself. Well, Michael is interested. He wants to actually build this marriage relationship with her ever since Lady's Eyes. And I was like, oh my, that's my wife, right? They received confirmation from God. All of that, all of that, all of that, all of that. But Angel is not buying it. She just wants to, just be on her own, get her money. She wants to build herself a cabin, and she wants to just, and she's not interested in marriage with this farmer. And she's not interested in all of that. How Michael wants the relationship to be structured. He wants everything to be done his own way, because on Angel's end, Angel is used to a particular type of way. She's used to a particular type of relationship, and that just being based on lust, on pleasure, and all of that, on sexual contact and all of that. Wow. Obviously, Michael is not interested in that, right? Even though she's beautiful, right? He finds her attractive. Like, he does not want their relationship to be just that. He wants their relationship to be founded on love, right? So it's just difficult for both of them. And in the course of all of this, we see Angel would leave him, he would go back for her. Angel would leave him, he would go back for her. And that just shows us, how God would actually keep on going back for us, right? How God would keep on going back for us. Not like we're deserving or anything, right? But God will keep on going back for us, right? It just shows us the relentless pursuit of God for us, even though we are not deserving, right? So, Michael and Angel's relationship just sort of, really showed us that, right? Michael and Angel, they make friends with the Altman family, they become friends with them and all of that. And another point comes where Angel eventually leaves again, and this time Michael does not go back for her, because we find that at a certain point, Angel starts idolizing Michael. She starts worshiping him and sort of putting him in God's place, right? And she's not even interested in a relationship with him, right? She's content with Michael, she's satisfied with Michael, and all of that. So when she leaves, this time around, Michael does not go back for her, and eventually she finds herself back with the person that, that basically introduced her to prostitution, right? That pedophile person that I spoke about. She encounters him again, and basically threatens her, and then like takes her back to that world that she left and everything. So she meets, I don't want to give away too many spoilers. Eventually she finds meaning, she finds purpose, she finds love, and she walks in freedom, right? She walks in freedom, and she actually comes to understand, and she gets to that point where she just realizes that, all the things that she had to do, because we do find out about Angel's background. We find out more about her background, we find out more about her past and all of that, decisions that she had to make and decisions that she made, sort of voluntarily and all of that, right? And she comes to that place where she understands that, her past, her background, the things that were forced on her, the things that she even did, that God does not hold any of those things against her, right? And she's just introduced to the love of God in such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way. And this is actually redeeming love, right? It is actually redeeming love that, just clears everything away, that blots out all our transgressions and just gives us a completely new slate. This is the love of God. This is the love of Jesus Christ, right? Chef's kiss, chef's kiss. So, the plot was really nice. I like the storyline, right? Even though there were some things that I found questionable, some, statements, some dialogue, that I found questionable. You can check out my vlog to just see my reactions reading it and all of that, right? But if you can ignore all those things, some cheesy lines here and there, some, all of that, right? Definitely have to look out for spice, some sexually suggestive sexual scenes, sexual topics, sexual conversations, all of that. There is spice, right? Even though it's not overly explicit, it's definitely there. And some of the things that you have to consider going in, you see, like I already made mention of pedophilia, there's incest, there's prostitution, there's a whole lot, there's murder, there's death, there's a whole lot in this book, but it is, a good plot, and also see the transformative and the redeeming love of God, and that's really beautiful and everything. So the Friendship Factor by Alan Loy McGuinness. Friendship Factor, right? So this is a book about friendship, and obviously you cannot go wrong reading a book about friendship. Or I have not read so many books about friendship, so I can't, I cannot say, oh, you can never go wrong reading a book on friendship. But this book was actually good. The friend, you want to learn more about friendships, like I already said, you want to be a better friend, you want to get better at your relationships. It really explores a whole lot of things as relates to friendships, as relates to intimacy in friendships, as it relates to, connections between friends. I think even conflicts, just different things about friendship. So you definitely would have a good time reading this. You definitely learn a whole lot. And even though, let's say for instance, you've been a friend, you've been in friendships, you've been in relationships, there's still more that we can learn. There's still more that you can actually learn about friendships. So I encourage you to actually read this book about friendships, The Friendship Factor by Alan Lloyd McGuinness. You can't go wrong with this one. Just trust me on that. You can. So the next book that I actually read, I also read Five Levels of Leadership. Five Levels of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. Right. So when you hear leadership, what do you think about? Let's say you think about Jesus. Let's say you think about all these offices. You think about, let's say an exemplary leader in wherever it is you are. Let's say your workplace, whatever. But one name that instantly comes to mind when you hear leadership, or when I hear leadership, is John Maxwell, John C. Maxwell. So, Five Levels of Leadership is written by John C. Maxwell, and this book explores the five levels of leadership, right? So, we start off at the bottom, which is position, then we move to permission, we then move to production, people development, and then pinnacle, which is the highest form. So we explore, and all these levels of leadership are actually explored in detail. So like each one of them have their chapters, which are also broken into like different sections. So it really goes in depth into these different levels of leadership. We explore position, we explore permission, and permission is basically about relationships, about building relationships with the people that you work with. Because when you build relationships with the people that you work with, then it will just be better, right? When you build relationships with the people that you work with, you're working on a project with somebody and you build a relationship with that person, obviously, like the outcome will actually be better. And then we have level three, production, which talks about productivity, talks about results and all of that. We also have level four. We have level four, which is people development, right? And this is actually about investing in the people that you work with and actually helping them to become better people development, linking them up to all the things that can actually help them to become better in life, better at the work that they do. And then we have pinnacle, which is developing leaders. This talks about leader, like development of leaders, right? It's one thing to develop, let's say, followers, it's one thing to develop just people, but in level five, you are developing leaders who are actually leading people, who are actually head over, people of their own, or head over organizations of their own, that sort of thing, right? So the 5 levels of leadership, the book did a really good job at exploring these 5 levels of leadership, from position all the way up to pinnacle, right? So regardless of whatever stage or level of leadership that you are on, you can always move forward. And the 5 levels of leadership is basically just like a stepping stone, or like a ladder to help us move forward, to help us realize where exactly we are on that pyramid of leadership, and how to move from where we are to the highest form, or to just basically keep on advancing, to keep. And the issue that I had with this book was that, it's more like relatable, right? It's more relatable, and it's more like, let's say, designed for organization now leaders, or like business leadership and all of that, right? So sometimes I had a hard time just trying to reconcile, or or trying to figure out, okay, how exactly can I apply this to, where I am leading, or how exactly can I apply this to my life. But there were a few things that I did go away with, there were a few things that I would be applying, right? And I think one of the things that I actually learned, and one of the things that I'm actually taking away from this book, is that when you move, for instance, from level 1 to level 2, it's not, I think a better example is that when you move from a lower level of leadership to a higher level of leadership, you do not leave the former level behind. So let's say you move from permission to production. It's not as though you now forget all the relationships that you built on level 2, right? So that's one thing. And another thing is that another thing that I'm taking away from this book is the fact that every leadership position is an invitation to grow. Every leadership position is an invitation to grow. It's not, oh, you get the leadership position and then you're like, oh, people actually recognize the good that I've been doing. People actually are like, it's not like a reward, that sort of thing, but it's actually an invitation to grow. It's actually an invitation to grow. Sorry, this was a nice book. This was a good book. I definitely recommend this. Whatever form or whatever type of leader you are, there's something for you in 5 levels of leadership. Maybe you're a church leader, maybe you're leading a platoon, maybe you are the class captain, whatever type of leader you are, right? And even if you don't think that you're a leader, please read this book, right? Because each one of us is a leader. And like John Maxwell says, leadership is influence. Leadership is not primarily position. Position can help you lead, but there are many people in positions that are not actually leading. So leadership is more than just position, is more than just position. Please, that's a myth, right? You do not need a position to lead, and there's something for you in 5 levels of leadership. Now to the 2 books that I read which were not on my TBR. And I did forget to mention there was one book on my TBR, or a series on my TBR, that I did not end up reading, and that was none other than the Percy Jackson series. So I did not end up reading the Percy Jackson series. I just was not feeling it, in the month of August. When I did open the book, I wasn't feeling it. So I decided to just leave it. I DNFed Percy Jackson. I've read it before. It's an amazing series, but I was not just feeling it at that point in time, right? So to the 2 books that I actually read, which were not on my TBR, I read Lightlack and I read The Raven Scholar. And these books were really, really, really good. I rated Lightlack 4.5 stars and I rated The Raven Scholar 5 stars. And Raven Scholar follows the story of Nimakra, and it's a high fantasy series, right? So it was the first book in the series that I read. It's a trilogy, which means that there are 3 books, right? So it's a really, really, really interesting story. I don't think I want to dive into it because there's just a whole lot. But the Raven Scholar, we're introduced to 7 houses, and each house is contending for the throne because the emperor on the throne has been ruling for 24 years and it's time for him to take a step back. So this book, there's a whole lot of mystery, there's modern mystery, there's a whole lot. There are dragons, right? There is fantasy, there's a whole lot, right? There's a whole lot. I really, really, really liked The Raven Scholar. Like it's a 5 star. Like I don't even need to think about it. The writing was beautiful. You know, it ticked all my boxes, right? Even though there is language, definitely watch out for the language. There was some like cussing, but it was not like so like strong or anything that you is like it's so overwhelmed that you cannot really know. It was just there. Not like I'm saying it's good, but it was not too much, and there was some spice, even though it's also not explicit, right? But it was there. It was there. It was really, 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 really good, right? So Nimakra is a scholar. She's from the Raven House, right? Like her own house is Raven, and there are 7 houses. There's the fox, there's tiger, there's raven, there's hound, there's monkey, there's there's hound. I think I mentioned that. There's bear, and then there's Fox. I don't remember the last one, but there are 7 houses anyways. Like each house, right? If you are a part of a particular house, then it's like you sort of take the characteristics of that animal. It sounds a bit, but it's a really really good it's a really good story. And something happens, right? Because I mentioned that each of the contenders are actually contending for the throne to become the next emperor, right? So we see that one of the contenders ends up dead, and this scholar that I spoke about, she suspects that, she's afraid that she's the one that actually killed this contender because they have like bad blood, right? Like they have bad blood and everything. So she enlists herself to actually find out, actually murdered this contender, and she also finds herself as part of the contenders to the throne. And in all of this, she's also trying to stop one of the contenders, which is the tiger contender, from becoming the next emperor. This book has so many plot twists, right? You won't even see many of them coming. Like, this book was really really good, and I really recommend The Raven Scholar. If you don't read any book on this in this video, please read The Raven Scholar. It was chef's kiss. And lastly, Light Lack follows the story of Isla Crown. Isla, she's one of the 7 rulers. Is it 7? I'm not sure. I think it's 7. But she's one of the rulers of the kingdom. Our own kingdom is Wildling, and trying to break a curse, right? So every 100 years, or every centennial, all the rulers of the different kingdoms, Sunling, Skyling, Moonling, Starling, and Nightshade, they come together to try and break a curse that has affected all of them. So how it has affected the Wildings is that they have to kill the person that they love. It has affected the Sunning is that they cannot come out into the sun. The Moonlings, they cannot come out on the night of a full moon because like they will drown if they do. The Starlings they die before 25, right? All of that. So they come together every 100 years to find out how to break the curse. And Slacrown, the ruler of the Wildling, she goes in with her friend Celeste, who is the ruler of Starling, and they try to find a way to break the curse because apparently there's a bond breaker that can break every curse. My God, it's giving Jesus. It's giving Jesus. Anyways, so they are trying to find that bond breaker, and at the same time, the king of Sunning also like pairs up with Isla Crown to find a different way to break the curse, right? So all of them, they're trying to break the curse, right? So there's mystery, there's mystery. They're trying to break this curse. There are trials because they have to find out, okay, who is strong, because one part of the prophecy concerning the curse is that one of the kingdom actually has to fall. So the trials are basically to weed out the weaker kingdom, or the weaker, ruler, the weaker kingdom, and find out which of the kingdoms they should actually let go of, right? So in this book, there's see the enemies to lover trope, we see the love triangle, we see mystery, and they're actually like many plot twists that you might not see coming, even though I did see some of them coming, but there are some that you will not also see coming as well. So it was a good series, it was a good read, and I think there are 5 books in this series, even though I've not gone to the other. I don't know if I would. I don't think I would. I don't point 5 stars after all. It was when I finished reading that I went online and I saw how much it Light Lack was getting. I was like, wow, because when I was reading, it was like a quick read for me, it was an easy read. We're trying to find out, okay, how exactly is this going to be? How exactly is this going to be? So that I was just flying through the pages. I was not even focused on the descriptions. I was not focused on, all these things, even though, when you're reading it, you might see plot holes, you might see ends that don't meet, you might see some things and like, but I think it was actually an okay read. It was interesting. I actually liked reading Light Lack, right? I liked reading Light Lack. So I just had to rush through it because I fear that my space will run out. I wish I could have gone, a bit slower and everything. But these are all the books that I read in August. So no, I did not finish my August TBR, and at the same time, I exceeded my August TBR. So glory to God. Glory to God. Have you read any of the books in this video? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the comment section. I really this far. Please drop a like. Drop a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. You can leave a book emoji, or you can just share your thoughts with me. Share your thoughts with me. Don't just leave a book emoji. Share your thoughts with me and leave a book emoji. And I'll see you in next video. Please make sure you subscribe because you're the only one who has not subscribed to this channel. Well, we both know you're not the only one, but please don't be part of them.